Hi, welcome to Coffee with Carla, and thank you for joining me. I definitely have my coffee, and hopefully you have yours as well, or your tea, or whatever, water, whatever it is that is your drink of choice. And what I want to do today is talk about um, the basically what people come to me asking about all the time, which is how do I deal with behavior problems with my child? And I want to start out by talking about the number one way to deal with behavior problems with your child is to prevent them from happening in the first place. Now, I am not going to tell you that you can prevent every single behavior problem. Even serious behaviors, sometimes they just develop. And there are some people out there that will tell you it's because of bad parenting, or it's because of too much screen time, or this or that, or whatever the case is. The fact and the reality is that those things are ridiculous. Children develop behavior problems for so many different reasons. And you can have a child that comes from a completely neglectful, abusive home who never develops behavior issues, and who actually is almost the opposite and very overly compliant. You can also have kids that come from an amazing, incredible home with incredible parents, and they do develop behavior problems. And it's not because of parenting, it's not because of too much screen time. And way too often, what I hear and what I've heard and what I continue to hear is just blame. It's like if kids have behavior problems, it's the child's fault, it's the parent's fault, it's the teacher's fault, it's the school's fault, it's the daycare's fault. There's so much blame going around, and I want to say, first and foremost, that is the number one thing that we need to get rid of is blame. So when it comes to your child's behavior problems, or maybe your student's behavior problems, the first thing you need to do is take all of the judgment and all of the blame that you have inside of you right now, and all of your assumptions about where it comes from, and throw it out. Because the reality is, it really doesn't matter. And the fact of the matter is that kids develop behavior problems for complex reasons. There is no one reason. There is no one thing that contributes to a child's behaviors. And all it does for us to hold on to our ideas of why a child behaves the way he or she does is it just stunts our growth. It stunts our progress because we're so focused on blame that we're not even able to move past it. But that is a little bit more of our topic about dealing with behavior problems. What I want to focus on today is, let's just prevent them from happening in the first place. And how do we do that? First of all, if your child already has behavior problems, I want you to know from the bottom of the core of everything I am, it is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is not your teacher's fault. It's not your child's teacher's fault. It's not your own parents' fault for your childhood or your upbringing. It just is. It just is. Your child has behavior challenges. And instead of focusing on the problem or blame or where it stemmed from, it's so important to just focus on, here's where we're at, now how do we move forward? And when you focus on blame or you focus on the problem, you just get stuck in that, and it's not going to get better. What we want to talk about here today is, how do you prevent it from getting worse, or how do you prevent your child from developing behavior problems in the first place as much as you can. And the number one thing that you as a parent, or if you're an educator or a behavior consultant, or whatever it is that your role is, maybe you work in early childhood education, whatever your role is, the number one thing that you can do to prevent your child from having behavior issues, or to minimize the impact that those behavior issues will have on your life, on their life, and just it kind of trying to mitigate them getting worse, is to build a relationship with your child. And I know that sounds so incredibly simple, but you would not believe the number of people who come to me, not just parents, these are educators, these are just people in general who will come to me and say, this child will not listen, this child will not do what I tell them to do, what I ask them to do. And the very first thing that we always, always, always need to work on is the relationship. Because if your child is misbehaving, is not listening, if things aren't working, number one, you're probably in a really challenging relationship with your child or the child that you're teaching or whatever that is, because you're so focused on what is going wrong and the things that they're not doing well and they're not doing right. And it's so hard to move past that. And when you are telling a child 150 times a day what they're doing wrong, it is eroding your relationship. So the number one thing that you can do is to work on that relationship. And if you want to prevent your child from having behaviors in the first place, you need to work on your relationship. And when I say work on your relationship with your child, this is not condescending. This is something I do every single day with my kids. I work on my relationship. And it's just like when people talk about marriage, and marriage is work. It's not something where you date for a year, you get married, and then, you can forget about the relationship. It's something you need to work on every month, every year, every week, every day. And it's the same with your relationship with your child. So even if you say, I already have a good relationship, that's great. And I'm so incredibly happy for you, because lots of people don't. So if you have a really positive, really healthy, really great relationship with your child already, that is incredible. And I will still tell you, keep working on it. Keep enhancing your relationship with your child. The best thing that you can do to prevent behaviors is to work on the relationship with your child. When I do work in schools, or when I talk to teachers, when I consult with them, the number one thing that I always say as well is that it's all about the relationship. And a child will never respect or do things for people that they don't have a good relationship with. They may do things out of fear, or they may do things because they have a really good relationship with somebody else. Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a parent, and they don't want them to feel bad. But the reality is if you want your child to behave well, if you want them to listen, if you want them to be respectful and kind and learn and do all of those great things, and not ignore you, and not have tantrums, and not freak out, which, by the way, your child is going to do at some point. So let's not have unrealistic expectations. But the number one thing is to minimize that. You have to work on your relationship with your child. Your child will only behave for you insofar as you have a positive relationship with them. So number one, the best thing that you can do to prevent behavior problems from beginning or from escalating is to build up your relationship. When a child feels loved, when they feel supported, when they appreciate and value the relationship, they want to do well for you. They want to behave. They want to do as much as they possibly can to make you happy, to continue that relationship. So in order for them to do their part, we need to do our part as the adults, and we need to nurture that relationship, and we need to we just need to put time into it. And I know right now so many people are at home with their kids. So maybe you're sitting at home, maybe you're with your kids all the time, and you're like, behaviors are getting worse. And I am here all the time. I'm going to challenge you a little bit, and I'm going to call it out. And I'm going to say that just because you're with your child physically in proximity with them does not mean that you're building a really positive, healthy relationship. And I'm going to tell you a little story, because I'm going to speak from personal experience. I am home now more than ever before with my kids. And I can tell you that there are definitely times we set aside and we nurture the relationship. And there are days when I'm just like frustrated and overwhelmed, and I'm kind of like doing my own thing and focused on that. I'm still with my kids. I'm still going through the motions. I'm performing what I need to do. I'm cooking for them. I'm cleaning for them. I'm helping with homework. I'm doing all those things, but it's not always about physically being there and doing things with them. It's about the quality and the intention and how you're showing up for them. So those days, I notice the behaviors are a little bit more irritable, not just from me, but from the kids too. And they're not as willing to do what I ask, or to, they still do it because we have an underlying really great relationship, but there is some resistance there. And the thing is, that's going to happen and that's okay. But how you approach it and how you repair it and how you show up on a regular basis, that is going to determine long term how your child behaves. And not in and of itself, but overall. So one of the most important things that you can do is ask yourself, am I showing up how I need to for my child? Not just am I here spending time with them, but what is the quality of that time like? And we're all going to have times where we just are going through the motions. We're doing what we need to do to get through this moment, to get through this day, to get through whatever it is that we're dealing with right now. But one thing that you can do is make sure, no matter what your day is like, no matter what's going on, every single day you set aside 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking for. 5 minutes. And I promise, if this is a priority for you, if it is important to you to build a healthy relationship with your child, then you will be able to find 5 minutes in your day every single day. I promise you that. No matter how tired, no matter how busy, no matter how stressed you are, you can do that. If I can do that in my day, which I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to go into details, but it is crazy and I've got lots going on. But if I can do that, I promise you can do that as well. It's about making it a priority. So that's it. Find 5 minutes of your day. And I'm going to challenge you over this week. Just do that. Just find 5 minutes of your day. Try to do it at the same time every day. And when I say time, I'm not talking about the time on your clock. I'm talking about a concrete time, which is like maybe after supper, right after supper for 5 minutes. Maybe it's right before story, before bed for 5 minutes. Maybe it's as soon as we get up in the morning for 5 minutes, or before nap time for 5 minutes. Whatever that is for you, find a time every single day for each of your kids. Now, if you have one kid, this is going to be really easy. If you have 5, 6, 7 kids, this is going to be a bit more challenging. But you need to do that every single day. And depending on what age or stage your child is at, this time is going to look differently. So for children anywhere up to age 12-ish, I would say find a time to play with them. And this means getting down on your hands and knees or your bum and sitting on the floor with them and just playing, doing what they love, how they love. It could be card game, it could be a board game, it could be playing with Lego or building, or for really young kids, just playing with toys, stuffies, whatever that is. Find the time to do that for 5 minutes every day, regardless of behavior. Do not tie this to behavior, because this will not work. It will not work for you, and it won't help to build a healthy relationship. It'll just be another kind of carrot or stick issue, reward consequence, and your children are not going to enjoy it as much. This needs to be a time that is, regardless of how your day has gone, regardless of what is going on, you are committed to this. And once you commit just to that, just to spending 5 minutes of time with your child every day, focused on them, on what they want to do, following their lead, I promise you will see a change in your relationship just from doing that, for the better, if it's done properly, if it's done right. And for older kids, it might be like if you've got teenagers, it's going to be a bit more challenging to find the time, and that's okay. And for teenagers, it's easier to be a bit more flexible because they understand the concept a little bit more. For younger kids, it's not going to work as well. So for older kids, for teenagers, they have to sometimes balance their I mean, social lives are kind of on pause right now, but they still have ways that they connect with their friends. So try to be respectful and mindful of that and build up a time that works around their schedule. And for us, for me, it's usually when my son gets home from work or after supper or something like that around that time frame. So you can find 5 minutes of time to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So for teenagers, it may not be play. It may be more focused on, for my son, it's more about he likes to show me his like stuff that he enjoys with cars, or he likes to talk about video games or talk about how his day went at work. Whatever that is, it's 5 minutes of undivided focused time talking about or focusing on playing with the things that your child is focused on. And when you start doing that, I promise you, give it a little while, but when you start doing that, your relationship will start to strengthen because your child will start seeing that they can trust that this time is happening every single day. They start seeing that they are really important. Their interests are valued to you, and that just validates them as a person. So do this, go for it. Give 5 minutes of your time every single day to each of your kids. And you will just see that this will be a game changer. And just doing that one simple thing, if you have really little kids and you are starting this now, I don't care if they are like babies, you can start this now. And even for a 5 minute period of time, obviously if you have babies, you're focused on them all of the time anyways, but find a 5 minute period of time where you can just take their lead. If they're cooing, coo back. If they're reaching for something, reach for it. If they're, whatever that is, and just take 5 minutes of time to really focus and sustain your attention on your child's interests and what your child is doing. And if you start this really young, especially if you're starting, from the time your kids are babies or young toddlers or preschoolers, this is really going to build your relationship so that in the long run, they are going to do everything in their power to do what they can to obey, because they want the praise, they want that relationship. They will work hard to make you happy because they notice that you're working hard to make them happy, and to do the things that they love. And again, I want to reiterate, this does not mean that you're not going to have problems ever with your child. This does not mean your child's not going to ignore you or not going to disobey you or not going to throw a tantrum. They will. That is guaranteed pretty much. So expect that your child's not going to be perfect, but know that if you put in the time every day to building your relationship with your child, 5 minutes a day is all it takes, then if you can do that, if you can commit to that, and this is something that is not attached to behavior, that it's just something that's valued, that's important, that you do every single day. I don't even know that you could measure the amount of gains that will give you over your lifetime, over your child's lifetime. But I can tell you that without that, you will see more behavior problems. You will see more issues. So to prevent that from happening, or to prevent things from worsening, and in many, many cases to make, if there are behaviors already, to improve them, just doing this one simple thing is really going to help. So that's it for me for today. I really hope this was helpful. And I don't know why I call this Coffee with Carla, because really I'm just like getting so into this and talking so much that I don't even take a moment to pause and sip my coffee, but it will be like holding coffee with Carla. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful for you, and I really look forward to just talking with you later again, and just talking about some more strategies and things that you can do to prevent and to manage child behaviors, and just to manage yourself and keep yourself healthy and well, especially right now while we are stuck at home. And for many, this is a really big shift. So hopefully this was helpful. Please let me know. Feel free to share it with anybody that you feel might benefit from this as well. And if you have questions, let me know in the comments, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye-bye.